Vasseur may have just revealed the engine secret Ferrari needed before Austria. And it is not just another small update. It is a reported 15 horsepower gain. At the exact moment Mercedes is already fighting reliability fears, Russell is trying to rebuild trust, and Hamilton is waiting for one more opening in the championship. That is what makes this dangerous. Because 15 horsepower does not sound like much in a road car. But in Formula 1, it can change how early a driver attacks, how long a car stays in the slipstream, how confidently it defends, and how much pressure it puts on the team ahead. And if Ferrari has really unlocked that gain before the Austrian Grand Prix, Hamilton and Leclerc are not just getting more speed. They are getting a weapon. A weapon for qualifying. A weapon for race starts. A weapon for the straights. A weapon to force Mercedes into uncomfortable decisions. Because Wolff cannot only worry about Ferrari's pace anymore. He has to worry about Hamilton closing faster, Leclerc becoming more dangerous, and Mercedes being pushed into the exact stress zone its power unit does not want. So Austria is no longer just a race. It could be the weekend Ferrari's hidden engine gain turns Mercedes' championship lead into a target. Subscribe to the channel. Ferrari should not be arriving in Austria with this much belief. That is what makes this story so dangerous. Because for most of the season, the pressure has been sitting somewhere else. Mercedes has had the championship lead. Toto Wolff has been dealing with uncomfortable questions about reliability. George Russell has already lost a race from the lead. Kimi Antonelli has already watched major points disappear. And every Mercedes weekend has started to feel like a test of speed, trust, and survival. Ferrari, meanwhile, has been waiting for the moment when the fight stops looking distant. And if Vasseur has really revealed the secret behind a 15 horsepower engine gain, that moment may have arrived at the worst possible time for Mercedes. Because power changes everything. Not just top speed. Not just one straight. Not just one qualifying lap. Power changes confidence. It changes how a driver exits a corner. It changes how long he can stay close to the car ahead. It changes how early he can attack. It changes how hard he can defend. It changes the way rivals behave when they see a red car in the mirrors. And for Ferrari, that is exactly what Hamilton and Leclerc need before Austria. They do not need a miracle. They need a weapon. A 15 horsepower gain may sound small to someone outside Formula 1. In a normal road car, it might feel like a nice improvement, but not something that changes your life. You would not talk about it like a championship earthquake. But in Formula 1, small numbers can create huge consequences. A tiny gain out of a corner can keep a car closer down the straight. A little more acceleration can make the difference between being stuck behind and being close enough to attack. A stronger engine phase can make a driver more aggressive into braking zones. And once a rival is forced to defend, the entire lap can start to fall apart. That is why this matters so much at the Red Bull Ring. Austria is short, sharp, intense. There is nowhere to hide for long. The lap comes back quickly. Small gaps matter. Track position matters. Starts matter. A few extra meters of straight-line confidence can change the way a driver thinks before turn 1, before turn 3, before every braking zone where an attack might be possible. If Ferrari has truly found more power, Hamilton will feel it immediately. Leclerc will feel it immediately. And Mercedes will feel it in the worst possible way. Pressure. Because extra Ferrari power does not only make Ferrari faster. It makes Mercedes less comfortable. It forces Wolff to think about decisions he would rather avoid. Does Mercedes push harder to cover Ferrari? Does it protect the car because of reliability concerns? Does it tell Russell and Antonelli to manage temperatures? Does it risk losing track position to keep the power unit safe? That is where the danger begins. Ferrari's gain does not need to destroy Mercedes on pure pace. It only needs to make Mercedes nervous. And Mercedes is already carrying enough nerves into Austria. That is the part Vasseur would understand perfectly. An upgrade is never just about the stopwatch. It is about timing. It is about when the rival is vulnerable. It is about whether your improvement arrives when the team ahead is calm, or when the team ahead is already dealing with doubt. Right now, Mercedes is not completely calm. They are leading, yes. But they are also managing a reliability story that will not go away. Russell has already felt what it means for the car to fail while he is in position to win. Antonelli has already seen a strong result vanish through a sudden shutdown. Wolff has already admitted that a championship cannot be fought properly if cars keep losing massive points. So if Ferrari suddenly adds engine performance, it lands directly on a weakness. Because a team with reliability concerns wants clean races, clean air, clean starts, clean temperatures, clean strategy, clean control. But a more powerful Ferrari threatens every one of those things. Hamilton can stay closer. Leclerc can qualify higher. Ferrari can attack earlier. Mercedes can be forced to defend instead of manage. And once Mercedes is defending, the race stops being comfortable. A defensive race creates stress. The tires work harder. The battery works harder. The cooling becomes harder. The strategy becomes reactive. The drivers become more exposed. The pit wall has less freedom. That is exactly the type of race Mercedes does not want before Austria. And it is exactly the type of race Ferrari wants to create. Hamilton is the perfect driver for that situation. Give Hamilton a car that is slightly stronger on power, and he will turn it into more than speed. He will use it to stay close. He will use it to make the car ahead look in the mirrors. He will use it to force a defensive line, then punish the compromised exit. He will wait, pressure, and make the other team feel like every lap is becoming harder. That is one of the most dangerous versions of Hamilton. Not the version that disappears into the distance. The version that stays close enough to make another driver uncomfortable. Because Hamilton understands pressure better than almost anyone. He knows that an overtake does not always begin at the breaking point. Sometimes it begins 2 laps earlier, when the driver ahead starts defending too soon. Sometimes it begins when the pit wall starts worrying about tires. Sometimes it begins when a team changes strategy because they feel hunted. That is why 15 horsepower, if real, could become much more than 15 horsepower. In Hamilton's hands, it becomes pressure. In Leclerc's hands, it becomes qualifying danger. And in Ferrari's hands, it becomes a strategic weapon. Leclerc changes the picture in a different way. Because if the Ferrari gain helps him over 1 lap, he can create problems before the race even begins. Leclerc near the front is never a small detail. He can put Ferrari into positions that force Mercedes to split its attention. If Hamilton is strong in the race and Leclerc is dangerous in qualifying, Mercedes no longer has 1 red car to manage. It has 2. That creates a completely different kind of pressure. 1 Ferrari can be covered. 2 Ferraris can divide the race. 1 can force an early stop. The other can extend. 1 can attack Russell. The other can pressure Antonelli. 1 can make Mercedes protect track position. The other can punish the strategy behind it. That is how a single engine gain can become a full team problem. And this is why Austria could become a turning point. Not because Ferrari is guaranteed to dominate. Not because Mercedes is suddenly finished. But because Formula One seasons often change when one team's strength arrives at the exact moment another team's weakness becomes visible. Ferrari's possible strength is engine performance. Mercedes' visible weakness is trust. Trust in reliability. Trust in control. Trust that a lead will survive to the finish. And when power meets doubt, the race becomes dangerous. That is the real story behind Vasseur's reveal. If Ferrari has found 15 horsepower, the secret is not only hidden inside the engine. The secret is what that power allows Ferrari to do emotionally and strategically. It allows Hamilton to believe Mercedes can be attacked. It allows Leclerc to believe Saturday can change Sunday. It allows Ferrari to believe the championship leader can be pressured. And it forces Mercedes to answer a question they did not want before Austria. Can they still control the race if Ferrari suddenly has the power to make them uncomfortable? That question matters because championship leaders do not only lose control by crashing or retiring. Sometimes they lose control by being forced into the wrong rhythm. A defensive rhythm. A nervous rhythm. A rhythm where every decision is about protecting something instead of attacking with freedom. That is what Ferrari must try to create. They need Mercedes thinking about engine stress. Thinking about Hamilton's closing speed. Thinking about Leclerc's qualifying threat. Thinking about Russell's confidence. Thinking about Antonelli's championship lead. Thinking about every hidden risk under the engine cover. The more Mercedes has to think, the less natural the race becomes. And the less natural the race becomes, the more room Ferrari has to attack. That is why this 15 horsepower story matters so much. It is not just a technical number. It is a pressure number. It is a confidence number. It is a message to Mercedes that Ferrari is not only waiting for mistakes anymore. Ferrari may now have the tool to force them. And if Hamilton and Leclerc feel that difference the moment they touch the throttle, then Austria could become the weekend where Ferrari's season changes from pursuit to threat. Mercedes may still have the lead. But if Ferrari has found the power, the timing, and the confidence, that lead may no longer feel protected. It may feel hunted. But the real danger for Mercedes is not just that Ferrari may have gained power. It is that this kind of gain changes the way Hamilton and Leclerc can race before Mercedes even understands the full damage. Because in Formula One, power is never alone. Power affects the entire car. It affects the start. It affects the exits. It affects overtaking. It affects defending. It affects qualifying confidence. It affects how much energy a driver uses to stay close, how quickly he can recover from a small mistake, and how much pressure he can put on the car ahead. That is why a 15 horsepower gain, if Ferrari has truly unlocked it, becomes much bigger than a number. It becomes leverage. And leverage is exactly what Ferrari needs at Austria. The Red Bull Ring is a circuit where a driver cannot hide weakness for long. The lap is short, the margins are tight, and every small advantage returns again and again. If a car pulls slightly harder out of one corner, that gain does not just disappear. It follows the car down the straight. It changes the braking zone. It changes the pressure into the next corner. It changes the way the driver ahead chooses his line. And once the driver ahead starts defending, the race begins to change shape. That is where Hamilton becomes dangerous. Because Hamilton does not need a huge advantage to create pressure. He only needs enough to stay in the picture. Enough to sit close. Enough to make the car ahead think about him every time it exits a corner. Enough to make the pit wall wonder whether the next lap will be the lap where Ferrari attacks. That is the kind of pressure that does not always appear in one dramatic moment. It builds. A tenth here. A closer exit there. A slightly later defensive move. A tire pushed harder than planned. A battery used earlier than planned. A driver asking more from the car than the team wanted. And suddenly, the team ahead is no longer racing its own perfect plan. It is reacting to Ferrari. That is what Mercedes cannot afford. Because Mercedes needs calm. They need control. They need to choose the rhythm of the race. They need Russell and Antonelli in clean air, managing the car, protecting the tires, and avoiding the kind of unnecessary battles that increase stress. But a stronger Ferrari can drag Mercedes into a race they do not want. Hamilton can do it through race pressure. Leclerc can do it through qualifying. And that is why Leclerc may be just as important as Hamilton in this story. Because Leclerc has always been one of the most dangerous drivers over one lap. Give him a little more engine confidence, a little more pull out of key corners, a little more belief that the Ferrari will keep delivering all the way to the braking zone, and suddenly Saturday becomes a threat. And Saturday at Austria can shape everything. If Leclerc qualifies ahead of one Mercedes, Ferrari gains control. If Hamilton qualifies near the front, Mercedes loses breathing room. If both Ferraris are close, Wolff's race becomes more complicated before the lights even go out. That is where a power gain becomes a strategic weapon. One Ferrari can attack directly. The other can create uncertainty. One can force Mercedes to cover and undercut. The other can stay out and stretch the strategy. One can pressure Russell. The other can chase Antonelli. And if Mercedes is forced to protect the championship leader while also respecting Russell's race, Ferrari suddenly has more ways to create tension. This is exactly the kind of situation Vasseur would want. Not a simple race where Mercedes controls the front. Not a clean afternoon where Ferrari follows and waits for something to happen. A messy, pressurized race where Ferrari forces Mercedes to make decisions. Because decisions under pressure reveal weakness. A calm team can look unbeatable. A team in clean air can look smooth. A driver with no threat behind can manage tires, temperatures, and energy with discipline. But put a Ferrari in the mirrors, and everything changes. The driver ahead may defend earlier. That defense can hurt the exit. A worse exit can invite another attack. Another attack can overheat the tires. Hot tires can create strategy trouble. Strategy trouble can force the pit wall into a call it did not want to make. And all of that can begin from one simple thing. A car behind that suddenly has enough power to stay close. That is why this reported 15 horsepower gain matters so much emotionally. It gives Ferrari belief. And belief changes how a team behaves. When a team believes its upgrade has worked, the garage feels different. The drivers speak differently. The engineers look at the data with a different kind of energy. Strategy becomes braver. Radio messages sound more confident. The whole operation begins to lean forward. For Ferrari, that matters. Because Ferrari is not a quiet team when momentum arrives. It is emotional. It is intense. It can become unstoppable for a weekend when the car, the drivers, and the crowd of expectation all move in the same direction. That can be powerful. But it can also be dangerous. Because expectation at Ferrari is never gentle. If Vasseur has revealed a real engine step, then Hamilton and Leclerc do not just inherit more performance. They inherit more pressure to prove it immediately. And Austria is not patient. If the Ferrari gain is real, people will expect to see it. They will expect stronger straight-line performance. They will expect Hamilton closer in race trim. They will expect Leclerc to be more dangerous in qualifying. They will expect Ferrari to make Mercedes uncomfortable. That expectation can lift a team. Or it can squeeze it. This is where Vasseur's leadership becomes crucial. Because an engine gain is useful only if the team turns it into a complete weekend. Ferrari cannot afford to get excited and lose discipline. They cannot chase headlines and forget execution. They cannot turn a power upgrade into a messy strategy. They cannot give Hamilton and Leclerc a stronger weapon, then fail to aim it properly. That has been Ferrari's burden for years. The speed is one part. The execution is the other. And if Ferrari wants this game to become a real championship threat, they have to do both. They have to qualify well. They have to start cleanly. They have to manage tires.